Trey Anastasio is here. He is, as many of you know, a founding member of Fish, a band Rolling Stone magazine called the most important band of the 90s. They began in 1983 playing pubs in their native Vermont and slowly developed a devoted fan base, much as the Grateful Dead had done a generation before. Without heavy radio play or music videos, the four members of Fish achieved success through constant touring. Here is a look at one of their New Year's Eve shows. Years, 1,100 live shows, and 11 studio albums later, the band has decided to call it quits. I'm pleased to welcome Trey to this table for the first time to talk about the Fish phenomenon and the fact that they have come to the decision to stop. Can I get you to change your mind? A little bit nostalgia watching this.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, you won't be able to get me to, but watching that clip of Madison Square Garden, you can get me to be sad in a certain way, seeing that, you know. But I know it's the right choice. I just know it is.
Why?
I think that, okay, I'm going to say this, and I desperately want to show respect to our audience, who has been so great, beyond. And I know that people are confused by this probably to some degree. But if you step back and look at it, we started when I was 18. I'm 40 years old. I have 2 kids. So do you other guys, you know, have kids now. And
Mick Jagger's 60 years old and he's got more than 2.
That's true. It's not that. I don't want to really put on it, but I think it's a feeling that for 18 years, the first 18 probably, it was the center of everything. We didn't build in any, vacations or any place to have a life outside of Fish. And I see bands that last a long time. When we walked in here, we were talking about Bruce Springsteen as an example. There have been periods of time when he's been at home, right?
He's in one of those periods right now?
He is. Well, we never really did that. And I think that, you know, we have a large organization, probably 20 or 30 employees in Burlington, a large office, and this thing needs us to keep touring. But that's not the real reason.
I think he's got family. That's a reason, but not the real reason.
It's a reason.
You need to keep touring to support an infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
That's a reason, but not the real reason.
Well, and I'm saying that because I've been going through that over the last 2 years. Is this the reason? And I think eventually got to the point where, for the 4 of us, we wanted Fish to always. We want it to be the center of everything, and when it is, it's so incredible, and when it was so incredible. The experience of the concerts, when we spent 5 hours a day practicing, when we lived and breathed Fish, was beyond intimate. It really was, and I don't know that people who didn't see Fish really could understand that, but I know that people who did go see Fish do, and I know that there's probably some anger now because we're taking that away. But what I saw happening is that it was going away naturally. We're all growing up and starting to have lives. And so we were putting less and less effort into it. And personally, I would like to see it respected by stopping, doing 13 more shows as the best we can, and then letting it be, letting it go, and moving on and having the rest of our lives.
I certainly don't want to put words in your mouth, but I hear you saying this thing that we had created was so much, we honored it so much, we believed in it, we sacrificed for it, it was enormously good to us. We had a fan base that loved us and came to different concerts. Each of them was a new experience. But what it might have come to is that you were not, in your own judgment, what you were doing now was not, didn't have something that was there before.
Yeah.
And what was that?
And that was a hard thing to admit.
What
Because,
was it?
some kind of focus. I mean, it started, this is in my opinion, the truth of what happened, is we went through this Millennium concert, Big Cypress in Florida. We played all night. We played from, we played actually 2 days, but the last set was from 11:15 or something on New Year's Eve until 7 or 8 in the morning. It was incredible. And it was, for me, the greatest, it was the Pinnacle. And when we came on stage, I looked at our drummer, Fish, and my best friend, and just the man I love dearly. And we looked at each other, we both had tears in our eyes, and we were like, we should stop. It just felt like the wave had crashed into the shore. And we didn't. But we went off about another year, and then we took this hiatus as an attempt to revitalize. And when we came back, it was just different, and
you knew that?
I think so. And then
you knew that it wasn't quite the same.
Not quite the same.
Not that it would end, but it wasn't quite the same.
Yeah, and not to say that it isn't good still, but it was so good, and it was so beautiful and lucky. It was so lucky. We were so lucky. It just doesn't happen. I don't know. When I think about it.
Imagine.
Yeah, I mean, what happened? We were playing in this little band around Burlington, and all of a sudden this, and I want to look at it like that. And I look at when we were in our meeting on Friday talking about this, I was the one.
A meeting called by you.
Called by me, yes. Where I went in and said, I went in and said, I can't do this anymore.
And were they surprised?
Yeah.
They were surprised. They didn't know it was coming. They thought we're talking about the tour, we're talking about something of business.
They each thought we were talking about something else. They knew there was something going on. And it's important to acknowledge the fact that I've been incredibly tired over the last 4 years. And the thing has been wearing me down. And my mother and my wife and my dad and everybody's been chiming in, you can't do this anymore. You gotta stop. And so they weren't surprised that I called the meeting. As a matter of fact, the first thing out of Paige's mouth was, I'm so happy that you're having the foresight to say this, because I've been watching you. And he was saying he was exhausted, so since he's not the center of this whole thing, he had been calling me for the last few months, and we're friends, we love each other. And he's been seeing this going on, and it was just tiring. 21 years, So, but I think he was thinking maybe we're going to axe the whole organization or something like that. When I said that, though, it only took about a couple of minutes before most of the other guys jumped right in with me and said they were on my side.
Okay, that's really one of the important questions. Most of the other guys, with some exceptions.
Yep.
Who?
Mike
didn't want to do it. Didn't believe it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I want to be very careful to not put words into his mouth. But I also don't want to paint a picture that we are this gleeful little club of people all wanting to stop. I think he was a little bit, he didn't say that he was in disagreement, but he said, I'm completely on the same page with you guys. I think that we could, through work, maybe find a way to revitalize this thing again and find that magic.
Do you believe that? I.e., that the magic you might have been able to find it? Or do you believe it was just gone and you were a fool not to recognize it?
Well, I don't believe it would be possible without, we would need an enormous amount of distance, because we've been completely existing as human beings within the context of a group dynamic. And that's becoming, over the years, more of a group dynamic. In the beginning, it wasn't as much of a democracy as it became, which is fine, but which starts to get tiring.
You get more of a democracy.
Yeah, and more of a democracy spreading out, not even just the four of us anymore. The example I use is, I see that you have our new album over there. And
yeah, I do.
We spent about a week.
This is yours, and this is the new album.
That's my new album. That's the Fish album. Deciding whether to put that square box around the word fish on the Fish cover.
Really?
And it was about 20 different people chiming in and going in meetings in the office. And by contrast, when that album came out, you know, I made the cover. It was easy and fun. And everything is like a giant boat. Do you know what I'm saying? That you, in order to turn it, it's gotten so big. And it's not anyone's fault because everyone that's involved, I think it's a natural occurrence. And I think that if we were to step away with pride now, we could then, 10 years from now or 20, look back and think, I was part of something that was magic from the beginning to the end. I didn't do what virtually all of the people that I admire seem to do, which is let it go on longer than it should.
Tell me more about what you thought was lost, because all of your fans, and let me just read you some email that I received today because they knew you were coming here. Why, Trey, why? 3 words. This is, you know, I just want you to know I think we are, as a community that would not exist if it weren't for you. Thank you. A question for Trey. How could they decide to just quit suddenly, not even have a farewell tour to say goodbye to everyone else in the country? Well, there will be some of that. Yeah. The fans are what made Fish what they are. A successful touring band does not become a success unless we, of course, know that. Why was the statement on Fish.com from you and you alone?
I can answer that.
Okay.
Okay. We talked about that at length because other times in our history we've tried to make a statement as a group and it gets watered down. I don't know if you ever saw the Doonesbury cartoon.
Yeah, right.
War is bad. That one. That's what happened. And so we had a vote, and then we actually talked about who should do it, and Fish was the one who came forward and said it's got to be you. It just has to be.
Yeah.
And so we did. Paige wrote one tittle, and we talked about it, and they wanted to use mine. And the idea was that I just tried to be as honest as possible in knowing that everyone else is going to have a chance to talk.
This is on your website, obviously. The official breakup note is written by Trey. Last Friday night I got together with Mike, Paige, and Fish to talk openly about the strong feelings I've been having that Fish had run its course and that we should end it there while we're still on a high note. Once we started talking, it quickly became apparent that the other guy's feelings, while not all the same as mine, were similar in many ways, which you said. Yeah. Most importantly, that we all love and respect Fish and the Fish audience far too much to stand by and allow it to drag on beyond the point of vibrancy and health. We don't want to become caricatures of ourselves. Did you feel that you were there or getting there?
Getting there.
Not there, but getting there.
I feel like this is the honest truth, and I would like to say this to whoever's listening that loves Fish, and I love Fish. Okay, nobody loves Fish more than me. I want to say that. I understand. You know what I mean? But in the last 2 years, there were a lot of moments where we're getting sloppy, we don't practice as much, and it's natural. It's not anybody's fault. But I don't want to see that. You know what I mean? And I think that these people who are writing it, I feel it's hard for me because when I play, I look out at the audience. I really want inclusiveness at our concerts. I think that's obvious. I look to the last row and I try to include people. So I'm with them. I miss it too. You know what I mean? But it's natural. And I also think, this is just something I'm going to say. One of the things I've noticed since I made this announcement is that everybody over 30 thinks it's great, and everybody under 30 doesn't understand it. Or not everybody, but people...
Everybody over 30 thinks it's great.
Yes. For the most part, I haven't seen people closer to I'm 39, people closer to my age who don't totally understand.
What is it you think they understand?
They understand the life from the point of view of a...
In other words, they have long enough to live a life to know that certain things, no matter how beautiful...
They have to go.
Change.
You got to let them go.
And human beings change,
exactly.
And your life changes.
Yeah.
New people enter your life, new ideas, new experiences, new directions, new forks in the road, and all of that.
Right, and that the gravity, the inertia of something this big is to make you be who you were 10 years ago. Whether you want to admit it or not, it is. It's like I saw you guys 10 years ago, and it was X. You know, even just the yelling from the crowd, do that old song, do that old song. And it's great, I like it, but at a certain point, you feel like this is not inertia that's pushing you to grow and change as a human being. I listened this morning to the Roadrunners, the Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers version of the song they do called Dignified and Old. And it's, hey kids, someday I'll be dignified and old. Well, I was, thinking this is the greatest song I've written. That, this gravity towards pulling you to what you were doing when you're 18 or 20 years old is not coinciding with what I know that I'm feeling at this point in time. Now, we tried as much as we could as a foursome to progress and age gracefully.
Have you been talking this out with anybody before you walked into that room today?
Yeah.
Who?
Well, I hadn't gotten to the point where I was verbalizing it clearly, but certainly my family and some of my real close friends who had been addressing me about it, you know, not about stopping fish, but something's got to give because you look exhausted. Paige has been calling me regularly for the last year, and not just me, but him too. Both of us, you know, and just as an example. And like I said, I mean, they're going to have a chance to speak for themselves, but I think you'll find that it wasn't that surprising when I brought it up.
Here, this idea ought to be expressed also. You guys had it the way everybody wants it to be.
Right.
Everything was on your own terms.
Right.
Everything was on your own terms.
Yeah.
You lived where you wanted to live. You made the decisions you wanted to make.
Right.
You sang what you wanted to sing.
Yeah.
There was no record producer. There was no anybody saying, Fish will do this.
Right.
You know, you guys had it the way most musicians, most creative artists
Right.
would love it to be.
Right. And that's the point. This is the last example of that. And I want to look back on this, and I know this is right, so that's what you're saying, is exactly it. We made the decisions. No one's going to tell us what to do. And so 20 years from now, when I look back on this, I want to know that we did the right thing. And that's what we had was beyond lucky. It was, like you're saying, I mean, we were aware of that. I count my blessings every morning. I can't believe that such a situation arose. But I think that needs respect, that kind of situation.
We also have to say this. I'm going to finish with your statement.
Mm-hmm.
Coventry will be the final Fish show. We are proud and thrilled that it would be in our home state of Vermont. We're excited for the June and August shows, our last tour together. For the sake of clarity, I should say that this is not like the hiatus, which was our last attempt to revitalize ourselves. We're done. How do you like it when I say those words? We're done.
Well,
it's been, and go ahead.
I like it. That's the hard thing. I haven't had any doubts about this. I've had people express their anger to me in the past. It's been hard for me I'm a person that wants people to feel good, so I respond. And I've been feeling that I've gotten to a point in my life where I can't do that anymore. It's not serving anymore.
Yeah.
For me not to be honest.
You end by saying this, and I give you credit. We thank you all for the love and support that you've shown us. I mean, the final bout ought to be the audience. Without them, there is no Fish. You don't seem to have any doubt. You're not thinking, oh my God, I'm going to say this the way I'm saying. We're done. It's over. We're not playing games here, folks. This is it. You want to see the Fish, now's the time to come. You're saying we're not worried about our commercials because as we knew that was there, that was riding strong.
Yeah.
We've had good tours. People are coming to see us. We decided to make this. There's no sense of you saying, oh, look, I've got some time here. I might change my mind.
No.
I don't know what's going to happen. I may fall back in love with it. We might rediscover the magic free, a month from now. And when we do that, something could turn us around. And, don't give up yet, folks. There's always, I have to say this is what I believe. I'm sure this is the course I'm on. But, as long as we're out there performing, something could change our mind. And,
I've never been so sure about anything in my life. It took, I know this is the right thing. I know it. I don't know. One person sent in a letter and said, "Oh, this is your Trey's egomania or something." And what I thought about that was that I think people feel like we're pulling the rug out from under them or something. But how can I explain this? I have to, at a certain point, make decisions based on what I know is true in my heart. If I'm not doing something that's true, honest, and from my heart, it's not going to resonate. And that's what an artist is supposed to do. So when I saw you interview Bruce Springsteen, I thought, he did Born in the USA, and then he left the E Street Band and did Nebraska, and then he went home and stayed home for 8 years, and then he went back on the road for 8 gazillion shows, and that's the way it goes. You have to follow your heart. If you're making decisions based on keeping a bunch of people employed, I think that eventually that's going to start to sound stale, no matter how badly you want it to.
Inevitably.
Yeah. And so I probably, I feel like from Big Cypress to the end was a lot of exploring on everybody's part. And the hiatus was an attempt to say, okay, well, let's break the whole thing down, and maybe we'll come back, or maybe we won't. That's what we said, But of course, everybody was just like, is it next week? And anything anything you did was a kind of intrusion on the Fish world. If somebody went out and did a tour or an album, a little bit, it's kind of like, well, it's good, but it's not Fish. But to speak about the other guys, I was proud to watch Mike, for instance, do an album with Leo Kaki, who's one of my heroes, and go on tour with him. Let me hold up that up there. I mean, I'm completely, utterly sure. And I also am pretty confident that someday people, if they don't get it already, will.
This is part one of a conversation that Trey and I have. Part two will be a look back at Fish and look at some of the things that he's doing now.